no prayer breakfast. I said, I'll be there. I'm afraid not to be. I need all the help I can get. And you know, I never get a fair break from the fake news, which is back there. That's a lot of fake news. Because last time I was having a lot of fun. We had a big run with 60,000 people, and I'm talking about the fact that I will never make it to heaven. I will never, ever. And I was being funny. I was trying to be, you know, you can't be sarcastic with them because they write your words, and they don't, the people who are reading the words are much different than them. But I said, I'm never going to make it to heaven. I just don't think I qualify. I don't think there's a thing I can do, but all of these good things I'm doing, including for religion, you know, religion's back now hotter than ever before. I mean, day after day. But I said, even though I did that and so many other things, I named things, I said, I won't qualify. I'm not going to make it to heaven. And the New York Times did a front page story that Donald Trump is questioning his life and the meaning of his life. No, I was just having fun. I really think I probably should make it. I mean, I'm not a perfect candidate, but I did a hell of a lot of good for perfect people. That's for sure. Right? But I want to thank the dozens of members of Congress here this morning, including a man of immense faith and immense talent. He's a very talented man. He's a small minority. It's just really, because we go back and forth between minority and majority, and half the time we're minority and we still win. How do we win with a minority? You know, we have a couple of people that I consider to be negative, but we're 1 up, 2 up. Sometimes we're 3 up. In fact, we'll have 2 more victories very soon. We'll be 3 up, and we consider that having a massive majority, okay? Right, Mike? That's considered, we're not spoiled. Can you imagine if we ever picked up like 20 or 30 seats? Wouldn't that be pretty? That'd be too easy. I think it would be too easy. It wouldn't be fun. I get these calls from Mike, sir, could you speak to so-and-so 3 o'clock in the morning? You know, we have 2 types. We have the type that goes along with us and believes in us, and they're with us all the way. And that, I would say, is 95%, right? And then we have the type that needs a little love all the time, no matter what it is. For the easiest thing on religion or republicanism, the easiest thing to pass, they always make it difficult, but they always get there. But I have to call them always at 3 in the morning. I'll always get that call. Sir, Speaker Johnson's calling. So I go, hi, Mike, what's up? What time is it? So it's 3 in the morning. So we have 9 names they're giving us difficulty. They want to have a phone call. I said, all right, let's go. Here we go. Same 9 all the time, right? You know? So I call up. I say, Chip, how you doing, Chip? Hello, sir. Sir, I can't quite get there. I just don't know. Could I come over for breakfast? You know, we have a 9 o'clock road, right? I said, really, is it not? Sir, you got to get me there, sir. Let's have breakfast, Chip, great. Then I get others, pretty much the same 9. I don't want to name too many, but I would. And they always get there. We have one that doesn't get there. We have one guy. He's an automatic no. No matter what, if we did welfare reform, if we did the greatest thing in history for religion, no matter what we did, no matter how good it is, greatest tax cuts, and we just did the greatest tax cuts in history, he voted against. He voted. Now, no matter what we do, this moron, no matter what it is, we could put them all together. I think, Mike, what would you say the top 5 things? Name them. We'll put them in one bill, and we'll put them before we'll get 100% vote, except for this guy named Thomas Massie. There's something wrong with him. We call him Rand Paul Jr. You know, it's like they just vote no. They love voting no. They think it's good politically. The guy's polling at about 9%. It's not good, but we have great support, and we have great support for religion. You know, I've done more for religion than any other president. When Paula was saying that, it was so nice. I was proud of it. And I said, that's true. I told the people backstage. What she said is true. Who else would say that, right? But it is true. But then I said, but that's not saying much, because not too many presidents have done too much for religion. I want to tell you that. Certainly modern day presidents, they bailed out on you. They bailed out. They want to be neutral. They want to be neutral or against. You know, the Democrats are against. I don't know how a person of faith can vote for a Democrat. I really don't. And I know we have some here today, and I don't know why they're here, because they certainly don't give us their vote. I certainly know that we're not going to be convincing them to vote for a little thing called voter ID. It polls at 97%. And even the Democrat, the people, the voters, are at 82% for voter ID, but the leaders don't want to approve of it. They said they will strike, they will not allow it to happen. It's polling at over 90%. It's called voter identification. When you go to the polls, you show it. Yes, my name is so-and-so, and I live in the country. I'm here, I can vote. They said, that's not allowed. And everyone's trying to figure it out. And they do something to win. You know what it is? They cheat. But let's get on to another subject. No, at that, they're the finest, probably anywhere in the world, I would say. But we're trying to pass voter ID and other things having to do with your religion. And getting the Democrats to vote is very, very tough. But we're grateful to the co-chairs of the breakfast, Representatives Ben Cline and Jonathan Jackson, and Governor Bill Lee of Tennessee. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I want to thank a man who's been with me for a long time. We've been friends, and I used to be interviewed by him, and all he wanted to talk about was war. I said, this guy, you know, he's very smart, went to the top schools, was a top student. He's like me, I was a very good student too, but nobody would think so, you know? And nobody thinks Pete was a good student. I don't know, they think him as a tough cookie, a flamethrower, which I like actually in the position of Secretary of War. But he has done some job. Pete Hegseth. You know, he was very popular. He turned down a very large 5-year extension contract for millions of dollars a year. Oops, I don't want to say that. Your wife is here. She's saying, are you crazy? He's got the greatest wife. But it's true that Pete has just been incredible. And I used to go and be interviewed at Fox and Friends. Remember those beautiful days? And I'd say, what do you want to talk about? So I want to talk about releasing about 25 prisoners. They have arrested American soldiers because they taught them how to fight, and they fought really well, and they won every battle. And now they put them in jail because they said they were too tough. I said, so how many are there? 22. And some of these guys were on the end. They were fairly tough, wouldn't you say, Pete? But you know, it's true. We teach people how to fight, and then you put them in jail because they fought a little bit too hard. And we took care of a lot of business, but that's all. We didn't talk about the normal things that an interviewer would be talking about, right? But I saw that, and I saw his love for the military. It was obvious. He was always looking to protect soldiers. And I said, you know, this is a really smart guy. If I ever get this thing, I got to get it. It wasn't easy, you know. They rigged the second election. I had to win it. I needed it for my own ego. I would have had a bad ego for the rest of my life. Now I really have a big ego, though. Beating these lunatics was incredible, right? What a great feeling. Winning every swing state, winning the popular vote. The first time, you know, they said I didn't win the popular vote. I did. But they said, so they'd always say, they would always thought they'd introduce me. While Donald Trump did not win the popular vote, you know, I'm sitting up being introduced by a Democrat or somebody. And he said, why Donald Trump did not win the popular vote? He won the presidency. Here he is. I said, that was terrible. I said, and we won the popular vote by a lot. We didn't want to play any games. This has been a much different. We had a great first term. We had the greatest economy in history, but this one's going to blow it away already. It's blowing everything away. We have $18 trillion coming into our country, blowing everything away. But we had a great first term. We rebuilt the military. You know, Biden gave a little chunk of it to Afghanistan brilliantly. He left tanks and planes and, you know, little things. I said, why didn't you fly the planes out? He said, Well, nobody thought of it. You could have flown. He says, it's very hard to remove the equipment. Really? You couldn't fly an airplane? Buy $150 million brand new airplane. Sir, I think it's better to leave it. Why? It's more cost effective. So we leave him a brand new jet. I said, these people are crazy. But we have it under control now like you've never seen, and our military's never been stronger. And you saw that with the B-2 bombers in Iran, and you saw it recently with Venezuela, where we're getting along fantastically with leadership, but really become a great relations. I don't think there's been anything quite like it ever. In fact, we have 50 million barrels of oil floating right now over to Houston, and we're working with them really well. I don't think I've ever seen anything. The cooperation that we have and it's great for them because they were.
That air look good to
in
me.
big trouble.
Lying son of a
economically, and yet
bitch.
they have more oil than any other country in the world, I think, except us. But they have more oil just about than any. And by the way, us and them, we have 68% of the world's oil. Now, I know that doesn't mean too much to people of great religion. I know you want to hear about, but we got to keep our country strong, and we're doing really good. But that's been an amazing operation. I would say when people saw that, I was just talking to a great leader from El Salvador, and he said, "Man, that was some attack. I've never seen anything like that one." Right? That was good, even by your high standard, right? That was a hell of an attack. But we have a great country. We have tremendous leaders. We have a fantastic cabinet. We have unbelievable bench, and one of them is Attorney General Pam Bondi, who may be here. Where's Pam? Is she here? Where? Where are you, Pam? Where? See, she wants to keep it nice and low key. You're really catching fire, by the way, Pam. They were saying about Kristi Noem yesterday. I did the Super Bowl interview. Sir, are you going to relieve Kristi Noem of her duties? No. I said, why would I do that? We have the strongest border in the history of our country. We have the best crime numbers we've ever had, going back to the year 1900, that's 125 years. We have the lowest crime numbers, despite the fact that this horrible, world's worst president, this is the worst president we've ever had, Biden. He had no idea he was president, so he doesn't take it personally. I don't want him to take it personally. Fortunately, he has no idea what the hell I'm saying. And he's watching right now. He's happy with what I just said. Okay. This is what we had running our country. But no, he was our worst president. We had some bad ones. We had Obama was very bad, terrible divider of our country. He was a divider. And believe it or not, we're bringing the country together. You know what's bringing it together? Tremendous success. We're having tremendous success. We have more investment being made in our country now than any country has ever had by many times. You go back 10 years, a certain country, not us, $3 trillion. We have in 11 months, because the 12th month is coming out next week, we have $18 trillion of investment coming in. The biggest ever was 3 many years ago. And one of the reasons for it is Secretaries Doug Burgum and Doug Collins. They are drilling like, my whole thing was drill, baby, drill. Where are they sitting? I love those two guys. Come on, stand up. And is Catherine there? That's Catherine. Yes. Hi, Catherine. Chris. What they are drilling like nobody. I spoke with Chris yesterday, Doug. I said, how we do, sir? We're drilling more oil than anybody's ever drilled by double, right? By double. We're doing it. That's why I was in Iowa last week with the farmers who were doing very well. We just handed them $12 billion out of tariff money because they were taken advantage of by foreign countries, various foreign countries. And I said, how much was it that they got hurt for? $12 billion. I said, good, let's write them a check. I gave the farmers $12 billion. And they don't even want it. They just want to be treated fairly. But we're getting it from that, but we're getting it with nobody's ever in history, and we've never done it either, like anywhere close. We're taking out more energy out of our beautiful land, oil and gas, clean oil and gas. And I always say, clean, beautiful coal. You know, the only thing I told these two guys they have to do, because they're the greatest energy people in the world, the best. I said, when you mention the word coal, anytime you mention coal, C-O-A-L, anytime you mention it, has to be preceded by two words, clean and beautiful. So Doug was making a speech the other day, and I sort of tried to pass a note, because he mentioned coal about 40 times, and he kept saying, clean, beautiful coal, clean. It really only works a few times, right? I said, no, when you say coal, clean, beautiful. You know, we buy all that wind from, we don't anymore. So we haven't improved anything in wind, right? Nothing, because it's a quick way to losing money, losing beauty, losing your fields, killing your birds. And other than that, it doesn't work. And Europe is so bad with the windmills, they're destroying their country with wind. And I was over there, it's not even recognizable what they've done. They've got a big problem on their hands between immigration and energy. Europe is destroying itself, and they better get smart. And I love them all. I'm friends with everyone of every country over there. Help them along. Got the GDP up from 2% to 5%, which is, for spending, for military spending. Nobody thought that was possible. Nobody thought 2% was possible. Got them to 5%. But it's not recognizable, Europe. If you go through the different cities, it's a very sad thing. And I tell it, I went over to Davos, they invited me, and when I left, they said that may have been the stupidest invitation we ever gave to somebody, Switzerland. But they have to, I just say it like it is, they're destroying their country. Their energy is ridiculous, what they've done, and the immigration is, I'm telling you, it's a place where many of these countries are not recognizable, and I'd like to see them straighten out. Very soon, it's going to be impossible for them to straighten it out. We have our director of national and international intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, who's doing a great job. Where's Tulsi? She took a lot of heat 2 days ago because she went in, at Pam's insistence, she went in and she looked at votes that want to be checked out from Georgia. They say, why is she doing it? Right, Pam? Why is she doing it? Because Pam wanted her to do it. And you know why? Because she's smart. And they said, well, this has to do, her position has to do, it's really not so, but her position has to do with international. I say, well, the same people that said that, they've been saying Russia's been screwing our elections, okay? So let's assume Russia had something to do with it. They say, no, Russia didn't have. So now they're saying Russia had nothing to do with it. Because if I say Russia, that it's perfectly fine. But you could add China and about 5 other countries to it. But she's done a great job, and Pam has done a fantastic job, and we appreciate it both. I haven't seen you in a couple of days. And I have one of the greatest negotiators. I'm so proud of him. He's a great negotiator. He's smart and respected by everybody. Jameson Greer, U.S. Trade. Where is Jameson? He's around here someplace. Thank you, Jameson. Boy, he's good. We have a great team. We have a great economic team, a great military team. We have Raisin Cain helps Pete. Raisin Cain. General Cain, he wiped out ISIS in 3 weeks. I was told by General Mattis and General Milley, sir, it will take 5 years. I said, what? Sir, it'll take 5 years. He said, you mean we have the best equipment in the world, and we're finding guys that use bad rifles, knives preferably. They're very good with a knife, but a knife shouldn't do it. And I said, why? And I flew over to Iraq, and I met a guy named Cain. I came out of the plane, and there's a handsome general standing there, and 3 generals. I went there to find out why the hell we couldn't win the war. Why aren't we winning the war against ISIS? They've been, playing games with us. So I went to see, and that's where I met Raisin Cain. I said, what's your first name? Raisin, sir. They call me Raisin. I said, what the hell kind of a name is that? right? We've learned a lot about him. Now we get it. In his very quiet manner, he's brutal. Just ask Venezuela. Ask Iran. They're negotiating now. They don't want to. They don't want us to hit them. You know, we have a big fleet going over there. Iran, but so Raisin was there at the bottom of the plane. What's your name? Raisin. What's your last name, Kane? I said, so your name is, let's get this straight. Your name is Raisin Kane, right? Yes, sir. That's what they told me. You're the guy I'm looking for. And then he said, sir, if you'd like, you can go and sleep. You know, it's a 20-hour trip. If you'd like, you can go and sleep. We have quarters prepared for you. I said, no, I don't have to sleep. I've been on a plane sleeping for 20, I mean, I'm sleeping on the plane. I don't sleep on planes. I don't like sleeping on planes, you know? I like looking out the window watching for missiles and enemies, actually. But he said, sir, we have a place prepared for you and we can meet after you've rested. I said, no, let's go right now. So we did that. And I said to him, I said, they tell me it's going to take 5 years to defeat ISIS.
No,
Been listening to President Trump at the National Prayer Breakfast, a speech that so far has been going on for more than 20 minutes, long on a lot of subjects, a little bit short on prayer. We're going to take a quick break. More after this.